could call us to order.
Okay, it is now 6:30 on March 7th. We will call the meeting to order for the Newfane organizational meeting.
And you should say that the first order of business is to elect a chairman.
Okay, the first order of business is to elect a chairman for the select board. Do we hear a motion?
I make a
motion. John Mack, take chair.
seconded.
Do we hear a second?
Seconded.
Okay, all those, any discussion? With no discussion, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I should be myself if I had any judgment, but outside
It
goal.
looks like,
Okay.
John, we have you as
All right.
chairman.
Now we go to the vice chair. Do I have a nomination for vice chair of the board?
I nominate Todd Lawley.
Is there a second?
Second.
And I nominate Christine Droop. I need to. I think nominations don't need motion.
They don't really need motion. It's not really a motion, it's really a nomination. But you do have to be accepted by the person who's nominated.
Yeah, I passed. Thank you.
You decline.
Decline, I
decline. Okay, Todd has been nominated. We're now going to vote. All those in favor of Todd Lawley as vice chairman? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so Todd Lawley is the vice chair of the board. The next item of business for the organization of the board is this judgment book we have in our list. We could not locate the pages, so Pat, I'm going to ask you to please look into that for our next meeting to determine what we're kind of looking at the, what can I say, the chicken scratches left by your predecessor, so we're going to follow it through.
The clerk too.
And
I
didn't know we had a clerk.
Yeah, that's usually the administrative assistant takes that.
Oh, okay. All right. So do we need that as an elected position? Is that the way we do it? I don't remember doing it last year. Okay, so
Shannon did it and now Pat's doing it.
yeah, so let's do it as an election. Why not? So we need to elect our clerk. Do I have a nomination?
Pat Grace.
So Pat has been nominated and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. We'll now vote on that. All those in favor of Pat as our clerk?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Sorry, Pat. Okay. Next, our meeting schedule, and unless there is, I don't know if we need to, we might as well make it as a motion. Do we have a motion to continue our meetings on first and third Thursdays at 6:30?
So moved.
Seconded. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
The only discussion that I want on that is I am concerned that the Newbrook Elementary School board meets the third Thursday, and they're contemplating like a $650,000 bond, and there's really no way for us as select board members to be able to go to their meetings unless we agreed to meet there and listen in on, and I'm not sure which, we'd have to have a very specific meeting, but they called a hearing for that night, and I emailed Kim and said, that it seems to me that's, we are the ones who have the oversight of the finances, and they have their separate budget, absolutely, but some kind of input from what the burden is on the town would be good. So
That's sort of a short-term series of meetings as far as this bond goes, or?
Well, they handed out what they're anticipating. They have an engineer now looking into the heating, and it's anything from, I think it was $250,000 to $850,000 that they're wanting to, at some point after the hearings, do a bond on. So that's a big chunk of money. It may just be that it's something that, if they had that meeting, one or the other of us, one or two of us should go to that. That's my comment.
Is there any further discussion?
Question.
Audience.
Would
Yes.
that bond require a special school board meeting?
They,
The town?
yes,
Yeah. So.
but they were,
discuss it and-
the last special meeting that they had, they called it for the same night as our select board meeting because it was their usual meeting time. So when I talked to Kim, I got the feeling that that would be the procedure. So it may just be to just say it could go a different time.
Well, I certainly could see the value in asking them, certainly if there's going to be a special meeting, that it be held on a night when not on a first or third Thursday. Yes, Craig?
Again, just so you guys can change, what you're setting here tonight for your meetings is in general. You can suspend a meeting, you can change a meeting.
Yeah, we
So
know.
if you're talking with a school thing, if it's only a couple nights, I mean, I wouldn't, I
Yeah,
hate
we
to
would-
see you change all your
Oh,
meetings.
absolutely.
to two
I'm
meetings.
I'm not even
yeah.
suggesting that we change it, but that we need to coordinate with.
Yeah, so I think that makes sense, but we certainly should communicate to them that it would be a help if they could have them not on the first or third, even if it's the second or fourth. And that we also, if it did come to a special meeting that's on a night when we meet, we could, as Greg mentions, we could suspend our meeting and participate.
I'm in favor of leaving the meeting dates as is.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to a vote. All those in favor of setting our meetings for the first and third Thursday of each month, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. So the Board of Liquor Control, we do not have that tonight.
Do you want to set a location?
Oh, the location, I'm sorry,
And the
is the
time?
town. The location, I did say 6:30. The location is here at the town office. I think that would be accepted as a normal amendment. Okay. The next piece of business actually is not here in this list, but we do traditionally at our opening meeting all sign, review and sign two documents that are binding on all of us as a select board. They were drafted by a previous select board, but we maintained them last year and they're open to discussion. They have to be moved and so on, but we do need to review them and potentially sign them. I'll do them one at a time. The first board is the Town of Newfane Selectboard Rules of Procedure. This was as created on the 7th of August in 2008. It describes the procedures. It basically sets, and I'm going to pass these to each of you to make, or it was in your packet, right? It should be.
No.
These weren't in your packet. This just
Just
came.
through a signature.
But just to state it, basically, I'll run through it quickly so that you see it. Sets forth our rules of procedure. It says that the chair, in the absence of the chair, the vice chair chairs the select board meeting. And if the chair, vice chair and chair are absent, a member selected by the select board shall chair the meeting. The chair rules on all orders of procedure and enforces these in accordance with the Vermont statute. Any ruling may be challenged by a majority vote of the select board. Majority of the select board shall constitute quorum. And if the quorum of members is not present in the meeting, the only action that may be considered is a motion to recess or adjourn the meeting. At the beginning of each meeting, previous minutes shall be approved, and the order actually of items is set here: road business followed by scheduled members of the public, unscheduled public. There shall be 5 minutes afforded for comment from each scheduled member of the public and 2 minutes per person for unscheduled members of the public. By tradition, if we're not pressed, we don't enforce that, but it really states here by majority vote, we can increase the time or may adjust the agenda items and times accordingly. But basically, that is laid out as 5 minutes and 2 minutes. Each select board member meeting shall have an agenda and a time allotted for each item. Those who wish to be added to the agenda should contact the administrative assistant to the select board to request the inclusion. The select board chair shall determine the final content of the agenda. All business shall be conducted in the same order as it appeared on the agenda, except by majority of vote of the select board. It may be modified or time changed, time allotted changed. Public comments on issues discussed by the select board, if not offered during the unscheduled members of the public, may be offered at any time during the meeting with permission of the chair. Such comment, if permitted, shall be limited to 2 minutes unless by majority vote the select board sets a different time limit. The chair shall ensure that all who wish to speak on any issue are afforded that opportunity with a 2-minute limit and the option of extending the time period as stated above before anyone who has already spoken is afforded a further opportunity, and the select board shall table unwarned items that come up at a select board meeting until they can be properly warned, unless they are of an emergency nature requiring immediate actions. Meetings may be recessed to a time and place certain. These rules shall be made available at all meetings. These rules may be amended by majority vote of the select board and must be readopted annually at the organizational meeting, which is what this is. So, is there a do I hear a motion to accept the rules of procedure as stated here?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Pete?
Yeah, in the process, I would recommend insertion of Robert's rules along with statute.
Okay, it's been recommended that we include Robert's rules. I don't know what, that would complicate matters.
Yeah, Pete, what would that do that we don't have here? Just an overall point of order kind of
Typically, a
things?
meeting is run in accordance with Robert's rules.
Yeah.
And in some instances, state statute, and I don't think a select board meeting, but I may be wrong. Some instances, the state statute takes precedence over Robert's rules.
Yeah, I mean, we do have statutes that cover how the meetings are run, and it seems we've gotten along pretty well without formally invoking Robert's rules. If Robert's rule, when taken seriously, is you need a parliamentarian, and we don't have one. Because someone has to interpret those rules and state what they are, and but these are pretty much set a manner of things being held with decorum. So,
Yeah,
I mean, that's my feeling. I don't know about everybody else.
I just think that the addition of the fact that we can do point of order, other words, if
I see what you mean.
we can, as it's stated in there, we could challenge your decision, but there might be, for example, there's already a motion on the floor and we're going on, so we need to just call that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody would object to it, even if it's not included in it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we have traditionally followed a kind of rough version as the moderator of our town meeting does. But I don't, it's not my call. You, Gary?
When we had developed the rules of procedure originally, there was some discussion about Robert's rules, and I remember some members of the select board wanted to append Robert's rules to the procedure, but if that didn't happen, and I don't remember how the vote went, I don't think there had been a problem subsequently because it hadn't been a formal part of the procedures. Yeah.
But it's so we could technically just, we've got a motion on the floor, we could amend it with a quick amendment, but I don't have a copy in front of me. And then it just covers everything, and it's not an issue.
How would you word that?
Well, because I don't have a copy of the policy.
Would it be something just as simple as this procedure follows Robert's
I think
Rules of Order.
Steve said after you have in there statute, just say and Robert's rules.
Except that I would slip Robert's rules in there first.
You put Robert's Rules first?
That's public comment.
I have a vague recollection of something else, I don't know if it was up here or not, but I vaguely remember something that said that the select board could
It's already
choose
done.
Yeah,
rules of procedure that it felt it wanted to use, and not
No.
necessarily Robert's
It's already
rules. I
done.
don't know if there's some other-
Actually,
said.
I'm sorry, Gary, because she just told me something I didn't notice at the top. It says includes Robert Rules in Order as amended and adopted by the new, so
Oh, so the
so it does
amendment-
include,
it's
when
right
we
on the
sign
top.
it does include.
The amendment went into it
Okay.
I didn't
sometime
see
in
it when
2008,
it's
looks like.
above the top, so, it's
okay.
all right, so we have that. Okay, good. So are we ready to vote?
Did Gary,
Well, I'm asking as chair, is the select board ready to vote?
sure,
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All right, everyone, all opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously, and each of us needs to sign this. There is a signing page for this. I will put it with the pay orders. The next is the town conflict of interest policy.
John,
Yes,
just, maybe you guys have changed it, but back on you picking the days and the time and all that,
Uh-huh.
normally you pick places of posting.
It's coming up.
Oh, that's later on?
yeah, that's coming up. I haven't gotten to that. Thank you, thank you.
Sorry.
The second policy is the conflict of interest policy. In this case, rather than reading it aloud, this is the town's conflict of interest policy. We're not voting on the policy. It's a matter that each member of the board needs to read the policy and sign it before the end of this meeting. So each of us needs to read this and sign it. So I'm putting it with the pay orders where we do our signing, but I'm just simply noting that it must be identified that everyone's familiar with the conflict of interest. We have discussed this at some length in previous board, just so that, Mike, you're new to us, understand. It's pretty extensive section in the selectmen's handbook, and so you should take a look at that so you're sure you're confident you understand at what point you need to recuse yourself of something if you have a personal interest in anything. Okay? But please read carefully and sign each person. Okay. Those are those two items of business. The next item of business is the location and posting of notices and minutes. And what are our current, Pat, can you tell us our current post places? And
The town office, WW Building Supply, the general store, Newfane Post Office, and Newfane, Williamsville Town Hall. Not Newfane Post Office,
Right.
Williamsville Post Office.
Yes, I thought that was, yeah, because I think there was some problem with that. Okay, and the Williamsville Town Hall.
Yes.
Okay. Could I have a motion?
John, technically it's called the Newfane Market.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
I just,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
yeah.
So, could I have a motion that we post in those 5 places?
Seconded.
Okay. It's been moved and second. Is there a discussion about where the postings of notices and minutes should be made? Go ahead, Pat.
We have been posting at the same places
Uh-huh.
that the warnings have been posted.
Right. All right, so hearing no discussion, all those in favor of continuing those 5 places as listed?
Aye.
All passes unanimously. Next is official newspaper for posting of notices and advertisements. I believe, it's been the Reformer, is that
Yes.
our official? We don't do anywhere else officially, is that correct?
That's correct.
I
Could
make a
I,
motion that we use the Brattleboro Reformer as the official posting for the advertisements and any other public notices for the town of Newfane.
it's been moved and second. Is there any discussion?
I know that the Commons sent information saying that they would also be willing to be an official newspaper. I don't know if anybody ever responded to that.
I think there's a problem in that they're, bi-weekly, so that for many of our notices, that when, if they're official wouldn't mind our putting things in there, but as an official place to post, it has that serious problem.
Okay.
All right, is there any further discussion on this, Gary?
Just as a matter of information rather than official notification, does the board also put all those notices on the town website?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And though I guess it isn't an official, it's not a newspaper, but yes,
We don't.
our policy is to do that.
So what?
Okay, so
Agendas?
It's Pat.
Well, the agendas don't, because sometimes we don't really get them finalized till the night before
but we
this
still,
meeting.
as soon as we post them,
We
if
could
you
do it
would
the
send
next
an
morning.
electronic copy
Okay.
to Gloria
No, to Bauman,
to Bauman.
because she does
Okay.
the minutes. And,
Okay, if you could send an electronic copy to
Okay.
Bauman, I don't see that there'd be anything but advantage to that. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We now proceed to the appointments for the year. And we want to take a look at who we have in each of these positions. I believe everyone has a sheet. And Pat, if you would carefully particularly note any changes. And also, Pat, I don't know if you're aware, once we do make these appointments, a letter has to be sent to each of these people asking them whether they accept the appointment, and then we have to follow up to be sure that each person who has been appointed to any of these positions has in fact accepted and is in fact willing to serve.
Okay.
Okay? All right, the positions the appointments that we're filling, the first is the road commissioner. Our current road commissioner is Christopher Williams, and I think in general, if people don't mind, our policy would be here that if the current person is fulfilling the job and there's no objection, we would probably want to continue with the people that we have in the position. And if anyone wishes to raise an objection, of course, they may do so. But I would like to move as simply through this as we can.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is just state each one, state who's serving in it, and whether if anyone knows of a vacancy that needs to be filled, then we should talk about who might fill it. So the first position is road commissioner. We have Christopher Williams serving. Do I hear any objection?
It's not an objection so much, but Doris said she talked with him, I believe it was Wednesday, and he said he didn't want to be road commissioner.
He had said anything to me about it.
Well, let's go with.
We'll put Christopher in, and if he
if he
declines
says no,
it, then we'll bring it
then
before
we'll bring
the
it
board.
back to the board. That makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Road foreman, that's not an appointed position, right? That's your job.
This is what we're supposed to be.
No, that's not this list. This list. Thank you. The Emergency Management Committee. Now,
That's page 2.
page 2 here, thank you. So we do have, now the dates, does that mean their term ends
That's
Every
right.
year.
this year, or that when it says 2013, that there's no 2000,
Well-
there are 2012? What is it? I'm not sure how to
You
interpret
do
this.
you do need to appoint 5 members this year.
So Todd and Jay Wilson are still current, and
Right.
Steve Jones, David Moore, and Greg
So
Rickard are
they're
up for
expire this year, is that what?
reappointment.
It's an
All of
annual
them?
appointment, Mike.
It's just an annual thing.
Oh, okay. But then why are the others not listed?
I don't know, but it's an annual thing. We all,
It's really all,
Yeah.
you reappoint all. So,
Okay.
is there any
So we'll go
problem
out.
with asking the 5 people who are currently on the Emergency Management Committee if they would be willing to continue serving on the Emergency Management Committee?
I suggest that we do that.
Yep.
Okay. Since Greg Record is here, you willing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Short circuit that one.
Anything I don't want to do, I'll tell you.
Okay. All right. So we'll ask them if they will serve again. The next is the delegates to the Wyndham Regional Commission, and I know we have one of those gentlemen here in Pete. Don't know, we don't. Yeah, oh, you're Hendrik W. Van Loon. Always thrown by that. Pete, are you willing to continue to serve?
I am.
He is. We can ask Jody, but any objection or thought of anything else? Okay, so we will continue with Jody and Pete if they agree to serve. The next is the Animal Control Officer. Now that was oh, that's not an elected. Does anyone know whether George is willing to continue on?
I talked to Sina yesterday, and she said that she would talk to him. She didn't get back to me,
So we
but
don't know for sure, but certainly
But
we
most
want to ask him
likely.
if he would.
because he's gearing her up to, call people, etc. So,
We'll put him in
Put him
and
in
then
and-
Right,
see.
same concept
Yeah.
for all of it.
and he has been elected as constable, so he's got.
Oh, he
that.
was elected
Yeah.
as constable. That's okay. Good. The next is the pound keep. Do we have a pound keep? Oh, that's the Humane Society. Okay.
Let's keep that.
Next is we can actually what I think we can do in terms of voting is once we've completed the whole process, we'll vote on all of it.
Okay.
Okay, pound keeper, fence viewers. We have 3.
Greg Record.
Greg again and Ted Schreier. Okay. Inspector of Lumber and Wood, Carlton Chaffee. The representative to rescue is Wynn. The town energy coordinator
Eddie Drew.
is Ed Druk.
Did we miss Ware of Coal?
I did. I missed the weigher of
Yeah.
coal.
Carlton Chafee goes in twice.
All right. Well, he can weigh the coal and inspect the wood, as long as he doesn't get confused which is which. Town energy coordinator. I just said right there. Ed Druk. Where is that here? Here it is. Okay. Our town service officer is Barbara Williams. And that one, I have a form that we do have to submit to make sure that, where the heck is this? That we have to,
I believe
yeah, I think
I got it at
I
Hazard.
buried it. Hold on 1 second. Here it is. So we do need to sign on this that we have appointed our town service officer.
But
So
once
I'm-
she accepts it.
Yes, so,
we
but
can-
it's fairly tight in terms of when they want this. They said in their note something like they need it by end of March.
Oh.
So if she,
Just call it.
yeah, so if, this is one, Pat, that you need to pursue to make sure that it is okay with Barbara to continue. Because if she doesn't, we need to quickly appoint someone else, or else her name will stay on it, and it's a person who can get phone calls when they don't want them. So it's important to make sure whether she is or is not willing to continue to serve. Okay. That's next is the tree warden and
Bill Gunther.
Bill. Okay. Next is Senior Solutions Representative. And is that Jimmy? Okay. Wyndham Solid Waste, that's Johanna. And it appears, and there's supposed to be an alternate.
There was, didn't you have somebody?
Did we
We
have
were
some?
lucky to get her.
I don't think we had an alternate. Did we?
Yeah, I don't see one listed in the
No, I don't
town
think
report.
we managed to get one.
Could put that on the website.
So,
She came forward.
all right, so it would be useful to put on, well, anything we find is an opening, we should put on the website that we request interest. Next is Vermont Cleanup,
Greenup.
sorry, Laura Bacon and Nissa Petrak.
Yep.
The Village Enhancement Committee. Now, is that a functioning committee? Does anyone know?
I think so.
All right. That's Bud Bergman, Ed Druk, Chris Petrak, Nissa Petrak, John Spicer, and Margaret Spicer.
One of two Margaret Spicers. We've got to get her middle initial.
Oh. Next is the Planning Commission. Now, the Planning Commission is we have to pause for a moment on this. The Planning Commission had Daniel Torrey resigned. So there is, it says two, but really Merle and Tristram were really talking about reappointing. But there is a vacancy on the Planning Commission. I would entertain it now if anyone has a suggestion of a person who we might contact to ask if they would be interested in serving on the Planning Committee.
And that term expires 2014. It's
Okay, so it's a
replacement.
2014 term. Without that, I would say that we should also put that on the website. We should put anything we end up with as an open position on the website, that we are soliciting people who would be interested in serving on these committees, and then we can make a decision as a select board.
Yeah, I put a sign up at the town meeting, but didn't get any
Okay, we really,
takers.
you know, those of you in the audience and other members of the select board, I would really ask that you think of who would be a good person. This is actually an extremely important committee, and in addition to other things, you know, they have moved ahead and gotten us the town plan to vote on. The next step will be the bylaws, and that's going to be a long and a lot of work project, but one that is extremely important to the town. So really ask people to think who would be really someone who would be willing to commit their time and energy to that effort.
Yeah, it seems to me, however, that they've done a vast majority of the work on the bylaws and then
Change. They
then
did at least a
changed
fair
to
amount.
the
I don't know
town.
how close they were to
to the town
finish.
plan, right? Yeah.
But that's,
Absolutely, it's-
yeah, but it really is important. So we really would, you know, 4 is out, you know, we're down to a bare minimum. And it had been 7, and we cut it down to 5, and now we're having trouble with the 5th. So please think of friends and neighbors who really would be appropriate for that position, and have a talk to them.
Are you still looking to ask those people that their terms expire?
Yes, Merle and Tristram, obviously we would,
And Merle's here.
and Merle is here. You willing to continue to serve? I'm gonna.
Still here.
He's still here. He didn't run out the room. Okay. The next is the Development Review Board. And on the Development Review Board, we have 2 members whose term expires this year. David Cotton, who is the chair, and Ed Nelson. And I noticed that Stephen Morse, we actually received a letter from Stephen that he resigned. So we have really 3 openings. We will certainly ask David and Ed to
And Pete.
sign up. Well, Pete,
That's right.
he's not till 2015. There's nothing he can.
And the
We had a
replacement,
hearing last evening, and both of those people are interested in continuing.
Great, terrific.
Stephen
you
Morse's
have- if-
position.
We would really welcome a suggestion from from yourself, anyone on the board, for a person to add to the review board.
Would you quickly read the names? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have Pete Penloon, David Cotton, Ed Nelson, John Feifel,
Yeah.
and
It was.
Stephen Morse. That's it.
There's alternates though.
Are there alternates?
Yeah.
So there are alternates. I don't.
We're
Yeah,
close.
I would ask that you take the 2 alternates.
There are 3 actually. John Mariano, Ted Colligan, and
But
Rick Wilson.
Rick Wilson.
John Mariano's is up in 2014.
Well, as an alternate.
I
But
see.
we're talking about who to
Yeah.
ask. But go ahead, Pete.
Okay.
What were you gonna say?
So if the alternates were made regular members, would that be too many regular members?
That would give us
That'd be seven.
And then
That would be excellent.
Yeah, so I think we should ask all three if they would.
This was agreed to last evening.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay,
So what we would have left over would be the potential for some alternates.
okay.
That's
We-
perfect.
You don't need 3.
Oh.
2 would be plenty,
Okay,
1 would be too many.
too few, I think. Did you mean, or you really meant one would be too many? But so we do have 2 openings for alternates, if, assuming the 3 are willing. It would be great if the 3 would. So the first order of business would be to, Pat, I know you're taking notes on this as carefully as you can. We'll go over it. I'll go over it with you to make sure that we're in agreement about what's gonna happen, because we need to reach out to John Mariano, Ted Golligan, and Rick Wilson, and ask them if they're willing to move from being alternates on the DRB to being full-fledged members.
Pete just said last night they said they were, right?
Yeah, but we need to.
We just need to get it
confirm it.
We need to re-up Ted Cullen and Rick Wilson anyways, they expired this year.
Yes. They would, yeah, as
But
alternates,
as
they would
alternates.
expire, right. But we'd like to ask them to become on the board, and we do have to also ask David and Ed officially if they will accept the appointment. Okay. Then moving along, replace the Conservation Commission, and the current commission has Bruce Gregg, Sylvia Kinney, Nissa Petrak, and Mark Pickering. Nissa and Sylvia's terms are up this year. Any reason we would not simply ask them to rejoin? And we saw, by the way, on this case, just how important the Conservation Commission. And a brief statement here. The PSB, as you know, ruled on the cell phone tower issue. And we posted on the website, but we did not post, and I don't think you realized it, Gloria, whatever you posted wasn't what I sent. That was the summary, the first 2 pages. They posted the full, what I received from Pat and forwarded to you is actually a 9-page finding, which includes why they did what they did. And they quote extensively from the Conservation Committee in terms of why they ruled as they ruled. You may have
I
had
had another copy sent
yes,
to
but
me.
you didn't have the actual full document. Unfortunately,
I
the
can-
press didn't see it either. So in any case, now we'll post the full document. So if you look at what I sent you, we'll post the full document there. My point really in this case, though, is that the Conservation Committee can have a very significant impact, and we need good people serving on them.
I also remember that Bruce Hesselbeck sent us an email, didn't he, that said, please get more than just them on the commission?
I don't
Does-
recall that.
Okay, there were 4 of us on the commission. Mark Pickering resigned.
Oh, Mark resigned. Did not have we normally, sometimes, Stephen Moore sent us a notification. We did not receive that. So there really is an opening as well.
Yes, and the 2 ladies at our last meeting will re-up.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
we do have 1 vacancy.
Okay, so there's one vacancy there.
But Greg, it doesn't have to be just limited to the 5,
Well, I believe
or is it that,
the idea was we asked you to knock it down to 5 because we
So you could have a
Right.
started out
quorum.
as 9.
no, I
Couldn't get a
just
quorum, went down
remember,
to 7, couldn't get a quorum.
Right.
So we asked to be down to 5.
Sure.
Because there's only been like 3 of us showing up and we couldn't have meetings. We went
no,
months and
I
months
think
without
that's
meetings.
fine.
I think that's what he actually sent us
Yeah.
a letter for, was to knock it down to 5.
Yes.
Okay,
There
so
was
there may be
something else.
confusion. Anyway,
I'll try
I don't
to
want to
find
go
out.
back and forth on this. Bottom line, we definitely need to confirm that Sylvia and Nissa are willing to serve, and we have an opening for, and that's another position where I would ask members of the public and other select board members to think of who might be a good person to put into that
Well, last year I suggested that we have either Carol Ross or Chris Trebert.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just.
Okay, I think that's a worthwhile suggestion. They're very involved in that kind of thing. But let's follow.
I mean,
you might follow it up by giving them a call, or I might. All right. The next is the 911. Is that next? I'm looking at this.
Yes.
I've got two different
I'm
lists,
sorry.
so it's a little confusing. The 911 coordinator, and that's been Merle. And Merle, you willing to continue to serve in that position? Great. So again, even though he says he's willing to serve, we still need the letter and the thing
Yes.
back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay. The next is the Village Enhancement Committee. Or no, we did that. We did that. Let me see if I can get this to the right list here. So,
I don't have
service,
a 911.
Village Enhancement.
No, we don't have a 911 on our form.
Oh, okay,
This
we
one
should.
doesn't have a
This
911.
one doesn't have it, but we should, in fact, have it.
911.
It's on the. It's a town officer. We don't elect
Yeah.
it, so we must.
Yeah, that's
appoint it.
abated now. Is that right?
But just kind of a point of information, not everybody in here is a town officer. An officer
Mm-hmm.
is an elected official, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've got several hundred, no, I mean.
Yeah, I understand. These are all that they
So
are.
that's why I think 911 is something that became part of a job description more than being appointed, but that's just my.
We still need an you mean part of the zoning administrator's position? Is that what you're?
It was taken on
Yeah.
by two previous zoning
see.
administrators anyway,
All right.
and I don't believe was ever
Okay.
appointed by the select board.
Oh,
The original 911 coordinators were Fred Janess and Sandra Dowley.
the question was, how did they get there? So they weren't zoning administrators. So that it may have shifted. It really is sort of moved.
That's back when 911 was going into
Yeah.
effect. We had to do all the address changes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
But it wasn't, no, it was not automatically zoning administrator.
Okay.
But it also wasn't appointed by the.
Well, it must have been the point. Of
Yes, it was. At the time, it needed to be. But I think then the state now handles the 911 through, there's a different format, and I think that's why it kind of moved out of its, everybody had to go and figure the 911 locations and so on. And now it's really a coordinator. Am I correct, Merle?
Yeah, they've changed the rules.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
But it seems important
No,
that
we can appoint
that we do the appointment as a kind of official
Yeah.
stamp. You're it. Thank you. Newfane Hill Common Committee? Is that, I don't see that on this, or am I'm skipping ahead. I think I missed the State
Last
Police Advisory.
That would be.
That was Gary. Gary, you willing to continue to serve in that?
Yeah, they haven't met in a year since Craig Report left. His successor has
Really?
followed up on it, but if they ever call, I'll be
Okay, okay. You could call in and say, hey, I'm calling the police on you guys. Okay. The Williamsville Hall Committee.
I spoke with Steve, and he's gonna get a letter to me next week to tell me who wants to stay on that committee.
All right, so we should follow up on that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, the Newfane Hill Common Committee. Does anyone know if that committee's actually been meeting?
It hasn't for some time, to the best of my knowledge. Not
Yeah.
since the timber's cut.
Mm-hmm.
They might have decided to meet if detail actually
We
decided
have-
to put the tower in the middle of Newfane. But since they're not, they may not need to. Anyway.
We can check
we
with
can
Ed
check.
or one of the members and find out.
Yeah, I think before because sometimes we have, I know this happened last year, the Village Common Committee, that if a committee is really inactive, rather than just continue it on, we will actually vote and to disband the committee if it's really non-functional. But it's worth checking, so Pat, if you could get a hold of, I would start with Ed.
Ed Droop would be the.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Thank you.
Start with Ed and find out if that committee is really a functioning committee,
Okay.
and get back to us. Now, we also have the problem that, well, I guess some of this got solved. There are 3 positions that are elected positions that were not filled in the last, but Gloria, you say the constable, actually, George Friend, did get enough write-ins
He had enough write-ins, and he's been informed.
Okay, and willing
that
to serve?
Yes.
Okay, so that's George, both town agent and grand juror? Now, I don't know, I'll
We had
be
one vote
honest,
for
I don't know
24
how that
people.
works.
Pat gave you a,
Greg?
What I would recommend,
Uh-huh.
I don't want to be out of order.
No, I'm asking.
In the past on this, you do not have to be an attorney to hold these positions, but it is very, very helpful if you are.
Uh-huh.
In the past on this, I can never remember anybody going, but you had John Piatek,
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Hasselbeck,
Richard.
shoot, who just bought Emma Brown's place?
we also have Jody French and
Yeah,
Walter
French
French.
Yeah, Walter
Lost
French.
mile.
And-
I've asked him in the past, he never really showed much, but I'm not saying don't ask him again.
Are Jody and Walter
Both.
related?
They're husband and wife, and they are.
I don't, that doesn't mean they're related.
Shoot, the fellow that bought Emma
Yeah,
Brown
no,
is
it's
an attorney, and I'm sure he, what, you know who he is, Mike?
Yeah, I don't really know his name. I think his father was a game warden, right?
What's that?
His father a warden?
Rowell.
Raul.
I would sooner think, and again, I hate to speak for him, but I would be willing to bet out of those 3 you would find somebody interested in these positions.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that probably falls in my bailiwick to pursue this and to come with a recommendation to the board. But I'm happy to hear from anybody who has talked to anybody to let me know. What is, I'm sorry to...
Pat gave us this.
Oh, yeah, what does the town, without trying to read it here in front of you, what does the town agent do?
Agents is for the town. Used to prosecute and defend suits.
But we would use
Select
our
board now
town lawyer.
has that authority. Thus, the town agent's duty consists merely of assisting when litigation is in progress at the request of the town.
I see.
So
Okay.
we would,
Right, it'd
have
be
a
nice to
lawyer.
have somebody in that position.
they would be willing to have.
Okay,
Again, for what it's worth, John, year after year, Bud Piatek, he never went to the office, but we used to call him, and he always, and the one person can do both, no problem.
John Piatek is Bud Piatek?
Yeah.
They're the same person? Okay, so I'll start with him and see if he would be willing to do that. Okay, great. So I just have to make a note that this is me and Pat. If you would just make a note that I said I would take that one on. Okay? I believe that concludes our organizational positions. Now, going back to the agenda, the next item on the agenda is the opening of bids for...
Point of order,
Yes?
weren't we going to go through that and then?
I mean, we were going to vote. You're absolutely right. We were going to have a vote on what we... I don't know. Well, I guess we're appointing people. We need to vote. So, as discussed, I think is the best we can say. So if you would someone make a motion.
I move that we appoint the various officers as discussed, pending their acceptance of the position.
Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for that point, Gloria. All right, let me put this here. This here. The next is the opening of bids for the Lynch Bridge design. And I have before me, I believe, 5 bids. Let's take a look at what we've got. This is, as for the audience's, public's knowledge, these are bids for the design only of Lynch Bridge. We at one point thought we were going to do design and build in a single process. We concluded that that would give us more trouble than it was worth with FEMA. And so we went to a more standard, is there a letter opener somewhere?
I have a
Or
letter.
a scissors or my teeth? I think they didn't want these unsealed. So for the record,
These to you.
Why is that?
thank you very much. For the record, we have a bid from SVE who did the design for Hunter Brook Bridge, and we have a bid from them and a full technical proposal, several copies. In fact, they seem to have made 5 copies. So what I'm going to do is give all the copies of all these things to Pat. But what I'm wanted to do is look for what the cost was. Where do they say what they're going to charge us for this? Okay, here's SVE, all about them. Here we go. Engineering, the task, they list 8 tasks, which includes construction services. I assume that's supervision of construction. And their bid comes in at $55,105. The next is from GPI, and this again describes GPI, and their bid comes in at $69,386.
Why was that already open?
Because someone in your office opened it. Someone received it in the mail and didn't realize what it was for us. The next is GM2 Associates. And GM2 Associates bid comes in at $98,055. The next bid is from Holden Engineering and Surveying. And again, we have multiple copies. Again, I'm going to leave all copies with Pat. If there are multiple copies, I may take one to look at, particularly of the, if we select a bid of the lowest bidder. And now I'm looking through for the actual bid.
Can I let you know what we talked about today? Mark Pickering came in. He knows these are coming in today. And we did tell the contractors that we needed V-Trans to look these over.
Absolutely.
Before we make a final decision.
Absolutely. Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. We may want to give an authorization, however, based on, because of timing, we may not want to wait until, we'll decide. We'll discuss how we're going to actually handle it, whether we want to have a special meeting once we've got the feedback, or whether we want to say, assuming that they're okay with the lowest bid, we go with the lowest bid or something like that. No? Well, then maybe not.
Those have to really be carefully
All right,
reviewed.
this bid, the bid from Holden comes in at $73,192. And the last bid requires superhuman efforts to open the box.
Feels a little Christmas, huh?
Yeah, I wonder what I got. We should have wrapped it, though.
Probably a bill.
It might be wrapped inside.
It might be, but I want a nice Christmas packaging. Yes, it is wrapped inside. They really don't want us to get to the bid.
See?
It's a secret bid. They take the secret part seriously. Now I have scissors, though.
John Scissorhands.
Okay, another wonderful set. Okay, Town of Newfane Bridge Replacement Design. Beautiful stuff, I swear to God. This is nice. Cost estimate. And this bid comes in at $906, which looks good to me. They took my build it with Legos really seriously.
What's this company?
Cost estimate.
What's the company on this one?
This company is Van Ness Hangen
Yeah.
Bruslin. And their bid comes in at $58,617. Okay, so what I would like to do is open the floor to discussion of how the board and any members of the public who wish to participate in it feels we should handle these 5 bids that have come in to us.
I definitely think Mark Pickering should give us advice on which ones to go with. And there's nothing from Dan's company either.
Yeah, GPI.
Yeah, GPI is in.
GPI's in there.
Just factored. I would make a motion that V-Trans reviews these to make sure that it's in compliance with what we've already set up, and then makes a recommendation to the board on their reasoning why, if we aren't using the lowest bid, what those reasons
What the
would
reasoning
be.
would be, yes.
And
Because we're going to have to justify that to FEMA.
Yeah. And at that point, I think we could either have a special meeting if we need to, or go with the next meeting that we have. It may take them that long to get a real good review of everything.
Are we?
You go ahead.
You did second it. I mean, this is a motion.
No, we haven't had a motion yet. I think
Oh,
it
that's
was a
what she was-
statement. Was it a motion?
I continued after the motion. So the motion is I'd like to have Mark Pickering of V-Trans review all these and make a recommendation to the board on which one of these companies to use.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. My only thing I would, if Mark were to recommend something other than the lowest bid, we would need really some real explanation of why that would be true.
We should invite him here to the next meeting to give us his advice.
That's not a bad. Now, do you?
Or do we have to do
I
it?
yield a little bit to you, Chris, on this in terms of timing vis-a-vis FEMA. How much under the and in time and Todd also to you to think about in terms of hitting the building season, because the design is going to take approximately 2 months, and we said to the bidders that they would have, I believe, 2 months from the point of our making a decision. So if I would be willing, let me put it this way, to have a special meeting if we could get an answer from them sooner.
Correct.
If they can't, if it's bumping up against the next, then we'll just have to make it. But I would definitely, whatever meeting would want, if possible, to have Mark Pickering or someone from V-Trans present.
I guess my concern is, are we going to ask them to go through carefully all of them,
Yes.
or the lowest,
I think we
couple lowest
I went
ones?
through all of them.
I don't
Every
see
one
why
of
we
them.
wouldn't ask them to go through all. I mean, they might look differently at different ones.
What if we just suggested that they go through the 2 lowest ones first, and if they meet the specs and everything?
I think that we also need to review every bid. Even if you don't know what it is you're looking at, look at the general outline of that so you familiarize yourself, because we've got caught on that once already. So just because it's the lowest bid, it may not encompass everything that we've got to have. So
It doesn't seem to me that, I'm sorry, go ahead, Craig.
I just think, in my opinion, again, it's only fair to them that they all be treated equal.
Yeah.
I think if you only going to stick with the law, there's a big gap there.
Yes, there is.
So I would recommend they all be reviewed.
Thank you. That's certainly my opinion, is that they've got 5, they've gone to obviously some serious effort to put together, though some of these are repeat, they're standard materials and only the last page is really new. But they've all put real effort into this, and we should at least put the effort to review what they've given us. So,
How long would we hope that they would be able to review them?
Well, what we would be asking is that they review them as soon as they possibly can. They have other we're not telling them what their priorities are.
Mark has been made aware that these bids are here today.
Yeah.
He was in this afternoon with Todd stuff, so I'm in hopes that he'll
Right.
move on this.
And
He asked me if I was gonna be here tomorrow because he will come in and start looking at them
Okay.
tomorrow.
There's our
I'd
answer.
like to
I just don't want
suggest
it
to
to
the
be
board that
too
we
much.
kind of, in terms of our own personal calendars, kind of keep next Thursday for that 6 o'clock kind of in the, no?
Not for Mark, he has his children Thursday nights.
So it can't, all right. So then let's just see from what Mark tells us
Okay.
about when he can, and we'll arrange a special meeting. If it, as I say, if it's a matter of if he can't get to it in a week,
Did anybody
then we
second
might
the
as well
motion?
put it off the next time. But if he can get to it right away, we would want to.
Okay.
Okay, we got a motion on the table.
Yes, we have a motion. Well, it's part of this.
Okay.
We have a motion. Are there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion on the floor, I can't quite repeat it, but it's basically that we ask the State of Vermont Transportation review them, give us a recommendation, and meet with us when they have completed that recommendation so we can discuss it with them. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, the next item of business
So
is,
did we want to kind of figure out when we might?
no, we're saying I started to try to do that, but it's a matter of
Their
hearing from
timing.
Mark what he's capable of. Okay, let me just see what I got here. That's good. Okay, the next item of business is scheduled members of the public. There are none. Next is unscheduled members of the public. Merle?
Okay. Quick question. Has Sullivan and Powers issued a final financial for the year ended 2012?
No.
No.
Okay. Are you aware of the 24 VSA 992? Christine,
I
has
am
other
aware of
copies
that.
if you'd like.
Yeah.
It states basically if the final financials have not been submitted before 25 days of the town meeting, that essentially the candidate cannot run. She's ineligible to fill that office.
Could I just see what you got there? This is news to me, I must admit.
To take it a little further, I did contact the Secretary of State's office, and they said it actually falls in the Attorney General's office realm. Would you like it?
I've seen it, but I'll take one for my notes.
Annual
50 cents.
settlements. Only other proposals to this town shall settle their accounts to the auditors of such town. Shall include in such settlement his accounts as
What do we mean by settlement?
I would have to look into this and find out exactly what it means. I know there are some towns that don't actually get their books audited on an annual basis, so I'm just not sure what the actual meaning is. It may be that her submitting her books is sufficient, whether the auditor has completed or not their work being a separate
We do vote
issue.
to retain an auditor on an annual basis.
Say it again.
Yes.
We retain an auditor.
Yes,
on an
we do.
annual basis. So that puts us in the annual requirement.
I see. Huh.
You can have the
I
town
talked to.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, we-
you know what I would ask the board's indulgence would be that I would ask the town attorney to look into this. I would also contact the Secretary of State to just begin that process so that we as a board understand it.
Well, you actually have to contact the state's attorney or the Attorney General's
State's
office.
attorney. Okay.
I was aware of this. Obviously, I've spoken
Right.
to you on it. I do want you to know that I made contact with Sullivan and Powers.
Mhm.
Okay, they weren't aware, nor have they heard any of this happening. Okay, and I think one of my interpretations to you was on that sentence, when an officer refuses or neglects to make such settlement. And the absolute fact of it is that Maureen has opened those books. The auditor is in absolute possession of the general ledger to June 30th for that year end. And the only thing that's holding the finalization of the audit up is the ability to come in here and plunk those FEMA files.
But the fact is, it was not available for the taxpayers and voters in this town at the town meeting.
It wasn't last year either because of the
Last
flood.
year either, right. So 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
So basically, you know, it's...
Understood. The question, though, strictly speaking, is the town treasurer in violation of the law or not? And if you would, I mean, you certainly are free to pursue it as a citizen, independent of what the board does. But on behalf of the board, I would like to talk to our town attorney, and I would also like to pursue it through the state. I mean, whether it's the Attorney General or the Secretary of State.
Right.
All right? And thank you for bringing it to our attention. I was not personally aware of this.
Not many people were.
Okay, maybe I will definitely follow this up.
Does there need to be some sort of time frame established on something like
Well,
this?
that's a fair point, Gary.
Situation?
I'll follow it up tomorrow. I mean, and if it appears that, you know, I'm not sure who, you know, in other words, this isn't per se the select board. This is the statute of the state of Vermont.
Right.
It would be the Attorney General who would be
But it
taking
doesn't
action.
originate at some point.
Right. So what I would do is approach them and talk to them and get advice, and I would call a special meeting of the board if the select board were, if it were our decision to make or our action to be taken. My hunch is that the action has to be taken by the state official, not by the board of the town.
They're going through a
Since
recount tomorrow morning though, right? So if the recount for some reason turns over so that it's in Merle's favor, we wouldn't have to worry.
Then we couldn't worry about it. Can you fix a couple of votes for me? No, I didn't say that.
Well, I would just like to make a comment. Irregardless of all that, the reality is that it's not like we're just leaving this go. As a matter of fact, Rick Brigham will be back in this office Tuesday morning pulling all of the large projects, which are now back together again, to do what's called a single audit. And it's not an easy task to do this.
Yeah.
So, irrespective of whatever happens there, I just want the public to know that this is commencing and it is still being taken care of. It's not like we just let this drop.
Right.
And I think that from a select board's point of view, we have asked and asked, and when the auditor doesn't get it back, we admitted again. You know, last year it was because of the flood. This year it's
Because of the flood.
Because of the flood.
And I
next year
think,
will probably.
and I think ultimately
No.
it's the select board, we're the ones who hired the auditors, and they couldn't come forward. So anyway, please do check.
All right, I will check on that. I don't know. As I say, this is the first I'm hearing of that.
Yeah, it's kind of a rare occurrence.
Okay. Worth finding out. Other unscheduled members of the public. All right. We do not have any new business or.
Anderson doesn't want to say anything. Are you just here for the fun of it, or?
I was
Oh, Mark. Yeah, Mark. Please. Do you want to give us your report? You're in in this
didn't
case.
say anything. That's why.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot. I asked you earlier. But go ahead, Mark, please.
Well, I haven't met you, but I'm Mark Anderson. I'm a sergeant with the sheriff's office and the representative of the town of
You don't want to
Newfane
either.
for the member of the public.
Can't go take it.
This is Mike Fitzpatrick, our new select board.
Congratulations on your election and to the rest of the members.
Condolence is what we usually say.
Well, my condolences are to Pat, but no. This month we actually. This is a month that is an example where quantitative numbers are not representative of what happened. We provided 32 hours of service to the town of Newfane, which is slightly ahead of what we are shooting for. Part of that was due to a significant amount of work with calls for service. Now, the amount of calls for service, we only had 16, which on initial review, I thought that is incredibly low for the amount of hours that we worked on it. So, no less, we had 16 calls for service, one of which had to do with bad checks. Somebody issuing checks that were not valid in some form or another. We had a few trespassing issues, which actually took quite some time to follow up on. Which, generally speaking, they're generally a short investigation and/or action. We also assisted Newbrook Fire with a fire, which took up a significant portion of time. So, overall, we're about 10 hours ahead of schedule for what we were targeting for this month. So with that said, we will likely taper our services over the next couple weeks to try and bring it back in line with where we expect. Ultimately, what that would mean is instead of working about 4.5 hours a week, we would probably bring it down to about 2 to 2.5 hours a week for about the next month. With that said, we do still have some highway safety funding, and some of that money is actually intended to be spent in the town of Newfane. So overall, I don't think it will, from a perception point of view, it will appear any different. This month, as part of having a little higher than normal response to calls from the public, we had less time to do motor vehicle enforcement. We also had a few snowstorms that we were actually in the town of Newfane during. So this month we issued 13 speeding violations, which the maximum amount of revenue that could be due back to the town will be $1,323.20. And I was just kind of curious. I pulled the numbers from July 1 that we've issued into the in the town of Newfane, which the numbers are roughly due back to the town is, I believe it was $11,000. Now I understand that there was a period of money, a negative balance with the court administrator's office due to the misbursement by their office between the village and the town. So my understanding is that has been rectified and the town is starting to receive money, which is what we talked about last meeting. We have set up, the Sheriff's Department has set up with Marilyn Disselberg along with Pat and Maureen to have a class which is scheduled for March 27th, Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday. There will also be 4 other towns at this point who will be attending as well.
Oh, nice.
So
Excellent.
we'll be doing a training right at the Sheriff's office. And that's basically my spiel, unless anybody has any questions.
I just want the town, if people, not everybody's been here when Mark's been here, the Sheriff's Department has been monthly reporting to the Select Board on what their progress, what problems they are, and is responsive to members of the public and the Select Board about any kind of particular concerns that anyone has. So I'd simply like to take a pause and ask if there's anyone in the public or the Select Board that would wish to express any particular concerns in terms of police, in this case Sheriff's Department activity, that they might wish to see more of, concerns they have that they want the Sheriff's Department to be aware of.
Just
Mike?
a question, is there a reimbursement to the town or the village with regards to tickets?
Yes, yes.
And is there a limit at which it shifts from village to town?
But Mark, you could explain better than I.
The simplest, there's confusion about how to do it, and so the system that we came up with is basically from the village boundary on Route 30, on the south end right here at the end of the village, all the way to basically where the Verizon building is, just shortly before, and a little bit up, basically West Street, and some of the roads thereof is we consider the village boundary. So as far as motor vehicle enforcement goes, anything performed in that area we just do as the Village of Newfane contract. So we don't provide motor vehicle enforcement in that section while working on the Town of Newfane contract.
And also you're doing it by time, right? In other words, for X time you're doing it for the town, Y time you're doing it for the village, so that where you would be dependent on who you're billing, in a sense.
Correct. So if one of my guys is working on village contract, then he will only be in the village alone. If somebody's assigned to work the town contract, on the other hand, as far as motor vehicle enforcement goes, they will not be working in the village, they'll only be working in the other areas of town. Where that gets confusing is that because the village residents are also town residents, they still get the same service as far as calls for service, or we have to do verification, or we have someone who had a telephone, so we will still respond to those in the village while working the town contract, because the village contract is
That's
solely
fair
for
enough.
motor vehicle
That's fair
enforcement.
Okay, does that answer your question? Yeah, now you know how we feel. But the bottom line is, we actually, if we were to get the whole $11,000, we would actually get more money back than we're paying the sheriff's department. We'd actually would be beneficial overall to us. So we really want to get the ticket straight. That for a while, that village town thing has been messed up enough. The state system and their system aren't quite in sync, so you really got to be on top of the system in order to track. Obviously, things happen there's quite a bit of time lag between when they issue a ticket, when it goes through the state, when the state pays us back. But bottom line, it should begin to even out, and therefore our expense for policing should pretty much balance out with the income, so to speak.
Now, does the policing just go for traffic violations, or criminal stuff? Do you guys do that too in town? So I know there was a thing like that.
Yes and
called
no.
you guys in Jamaica, and you said they don't pay you to do criminal.
Yes and no. Our contracts are designed because the amount of time that a criminal investigation can take. I mean, case in point, we had 16 hours towards calls for service that, generally speaking, should probably only take about 4 hours. These are just exceptional. For whatever reason, maybe the moon was out of whack. But with that said, each town that we contract with has different criteria for how we deal with that. So here in the town of Newfane, generally speaking, we do motor vehicle enforcement. Any criminal violations we observe ourselves, we will investigate. And then if the state police refuse to respond, which has been a growing occurrence, then if we believe that there is potential for a criminal violation, then we will investigate as well. And then as a catch-all for all of that, if the board or representative of the board authorizes it, we will conduct an investigation. So,
I mean, I guess what I'm kind of getting at, I could care if you ever wrote a speeding ticket, for the most part, unless somebody really speed. The money the town spends, I'd rather see you off on Grout Pond or the back roads or something, just traveling around, making sure people ain't breaking into houses and all this. I mean, look at like the telephone company, they had miles of line taken down. Most people knew who did it. A lot of them knows do it, and they never seem to catch them. I mean, like I said, the speeding tickets, most of the time it's somebody going to work, or somebody might be coming up here for a weekend and just get caught right here in the village or wherever.
Well, I guess.
But I'd rather see that money spent, the sheriff's department riding around through South Wardsboro Road, Dump Road, River Road, South Newfane, Williamsville, wherever. And if they make your presence shown, people that are going to break into houses and stuff, most of the time, they know there's somebody coming along, law enforcement.
I think, Mike, we have, in last year, as you know, Mark, we asked them to do as much as they could in terms of the back roads.
Random.
We do have to take into account in terms of presence, we're talking between 2 and 5 hours a week.
Right.
So you're never going to get the level
I
of
know
presence
that.
you might wish to have.
Right.
But yes, we certainly, we're willing to pay, we're not looking to make money on the deal. And our primary concern is really avoidance of crime to the greatest extent possible.
Well, just to hit on what you're saying, sir. My first position in regards to speeding violations is Windham County has the highest fatality rate for motor vehicle crashes, of which those are generally related to alcohol and speed. So to say that a speeding violation is not important enough for a time, I think would be a disservice to the people who've lost their
I'm not
lives.
saying they're not important. I mean, I just see them all the time when you guys are sitting there on the street, more or less like hiding behind the cars or whatever. I mean, most of the guys traveling through here aren't going that fast. And it's pretty easy to go 5 miles an hour over that speed limit too.
I'll agree with you there, and that's why our deputies have discretion when they.
But I'm just saying, you know, for my dollar well spent, because I've called you guys a couple different times, and you know, and actually one time they said, well, we don't handle criminal stuff.
Yeah, and part of that goes back to trying to be responsible with the town's money. We do an assessment basically to determine if we, based on the initial information that we have, if we think that we can conduct that investigation without it basically impacting the town's budget.
And I think too, Mike, there's like, depends on when you maybe call them, because this will be the second year.
Right, the year before.
We didn't contract with them at all,
Right.
and so that was with the state police, so they weren't under contract for.
Right.
So I think it depends on.
Yeah, if it's more within the last year, it would have been under our contract, but if it's before that, we actually didn't contract with the sheriff's department at all. We were contracting with state police. But it's a point that we've all made, which is we really do want as much presence on the back roads as possible, because that's where people see advantage. They see alternative. They see a cop car around there, or a sheriff's car every one now and then. Maybe they think twice, and we definitely do want that. That service is what we want. You know, that is the priority. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your presence at town meeting also.
We really appreciate that. It really gives us an opportunity to kind of touch base and see how things are going. Great.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Any other unscheduled members of the public?
I simply wanted to thank you all for your willingness to serve the town as members of the select board again, and wish you a good year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
All right.
Thank you,
Take care,
Gary.
Thank you.
Greg?
Yeah, the only question I had, and I couldn't think of a better night, had 5 current selectmen and 4 past ones. Does anybody here know if the town of Newfane has a charter?
No,
I
we're
went on
not
the
a
site,
charter
and
town.
According to the state, we don't.
No, we're not a charter town.
Okay. I know the villages.
Yes.
The
Right.
village has a charter,
Town of
that's
Newfane is-
different,
okay,
but
thank you.
the town does not. Okay, we now move on to correspondence. We have one piece of correspondence. It relates, however, to the town offices, and I think that's really an agenda item for next meeting. So I would like to postpone that, and because we're going to be talking next meeting about, that's more of our regular business, talking about the town office committee formation would be on the agenda for next meeting.
Just something for new business that we skipped over
What's that?
is the posting roads.
Oh, okay.
I've got the new posted signs, and probably Southwood Road's gonna get posted tomorrow afternoon after the storm. There's a lot of guys logging up there. They've actually come to the garage and asked me about it, but we spent a fortune on mud up that road last year. It was like $19,000 to try to
I
open that road up.
remember. We had to
We need to get
hire
that posted before it gets bad this year. So.
Okay.
But we have to post the, we have to write up something that says we're posting the roads, and have them published, or have them posted. One here, and probably I'll just post it wherever we post it.
Well, why don't we just post it in our regular spot? So if you would instruct Pat on
Right.
where this, that would be great.
That way we're covered.
Okay. We do have a need, we did not put it here, but we do need a brief executive session before pay orders, or to discuss dealing with the previous contract that we had, that we ended a few weeks back, and we had talked about writing a letter. So that needs to be discussed in an executive session, however, it should not be in public, because it's an employee relationship. All right, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
I move that we go into executive
Thank you
session
both.
to
Take care.
discuss
Legal issues.
legal issue, contractual issue.
Legal contract. Okay,
Any second?
it's been
Second.
moved and seconded.
Sorry.
Todd actually seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, well, we are now going into executive session. I am reconvening the,
We have to have a motion to come out.
oh, we do. We need a
Make
motion
a
to come
motion
out.
to come out of executive session.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to come out of executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're now out of executive session. And do I hear a
Aye.
motion coming out of executive session?
I would like to make a motion that the chairman make a contact with the town's attorney for a consultation regarding a contractual matter, and then report back to the board.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. That concludes our business with the exception of signing pay orders. And I do want to just give you this.
Make sure you sign the contract.
That-